All right. I am with Pa Theriot. I am super excited to have them on the show. Pa, talk to us a little bit about where you are in your writing journey.
In my journey as a whole or just with this novel?
Let's start journey as a whole, and then we'll
Journey
go
as a
this
whole.
novel.
Okay. So I've written 18 books now, and no one may read them.
Yeah.
They're a
That's what I was gonna say.
secret.
You've written 18 books and you've locked them all in a drawer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still being a turkey about that. I'm coming around though, slowly
Okay.
but surely. I'm coming around. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm getting to a place where I'm feeling good about the work that I'm making. So like once I
Nice.
start putting that out again, the fresh stuff,
Yeah.
then I'll come through with the backlist.
That's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you are coming to terms with your work. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm with you. I so many of
Because
my
I
books I
I
hate.
did the thing.
Yeah.
Like I published 4 books
Yeah.
and then in 2019 I took them down because there were just aspects of them that I didn't agree with anymore and I wanted to
Sure.
be conscientious of like serving the community well, the queer community.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to be careful and just like take my time and really digest and understand like how I'm representing these stories and the
Hmm.
person I'm being in the world and making sure that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
So I just pulled everything down and took a step back and have been processing.
I think that's really beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
and they and
Everyone
a
gives me a hard time about
no, I'm not going to
it.
give you a hard time about it. I think
That's
it's a
awesome.
really beautiful sacrifice on behalf of the community to say like, hey, I don't know that this is what I wanted to put into the world, so I'm going to
Yeah.
back down. I mean, we're all in a process of ever evolution and growing.
Yep.
Um, I think there's
And that's what my
maturity.
writing is for. Like
Yeah.
I'm autistic and I write to understand things.
Hmm.
So I write about people and about situations that I don't understand yet,
Yeah.
and then learn about it through
And push them
that.
out that way.
My first novel, I didn't even know I was autistic, and I had 4 autistic main characters. It
That's,
was this like braided narrative
that's really fun.
about like all these different stages of life.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like 19 writing about a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 20
Mhm.
something, and a 30 something.
Yeah,
Um, and like their journey with autism. Cause like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that really is writing to understand, right? Like that is
I was like, I'm just so
that's the core.
drawn to
Yeah.
this cause.
I just need to understand
I
this.
really care
Yeah.
about autistic people and
Yeah.
like what their journey is like inside. Like,
That's really
hello.
funny.
The call
That's
is coming from
fantastic.
inside the house.
That's fantastic. Um, okay, let's talk about this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are we with this story?
So this one,
I'm going to share the
so
screen. I have it here.
oh, sure, cool.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. I might be lying. There it is. Okay.
possible. So I'm obsessed. So this was what I wrote for NaNoWriMo last year.
Okay.
It's a small town sapphic romance. The main characters are Dr. Judy Darling and Sugar, who's the local mechanic in Stevieana, Texas, where Judy flees to help cope with her anxiety.
Nice. Beautiful names, by the way.
Thank you.
I always have the worst time naming people, and these are just fantastic character names. Dr. Judy Darling is amazing.
Love.
Okay. We've got an hour together. How can I best help you today?
Yeah, so I put together this inside outline. We've got like the description at the top, some of
Mhm.
the tropes, the log line,
Yeah.
the estimated length. So this is already written, but I am like flexible on all of it. I don't mind a page one rewrite.
Okay.
Um, and so this is just, are you familiar with inside
I
outlines?
am, yeah. I like them a lot. I think they really
Yeah,
help.
they're so handy.
They're so handy and they force that causality.
Which
Um,
I like, suck at. I am the
yeah.
worst.
Well, yeah,
I have no sense of linearity. It
yeah,
doesn't exist in my world.
I like the character growth aspect
Mm.
of linearity, but I also tend this is really great for me because it keeps me out of rabbit trails. I'm terrible at like I'm gonna write 7 seasons of nothing to do with anything. I'm just having a
Yes.
great time. Um, So for those, if anybody's listening who doesn't know what this is, you can Google inside, outside, um, or
Inside Outline.
inside outline. Sorry, inside outside is the name of my book. You can Google that too.
Google that.
Inside outline.
It's
And
from
what?
Jenny Nash at
Yeah,
the
it's
Author Accelerator.
yeah, it's fantastic. You take you try to get like 2 to 3 sentences per pop beat, or is it just one sentence? I can't remember what she
Yeah,
said.
you want to do one, but she's like, I'll allow you three if you have
Yeah,
to. But that's just for the 15, so just like the structural scenes.
yeah, yeah.
When you do the full one,
Hmm.
it's just one line.
Mm.
Because otherwise you have too much and you can't see it all at once.
Yeah, and the idea is to be ruthless and get it down to that one, even if it hurts your heart to cut it to one line. Get it down to like this is the scene and this is what it's about. So every scene gets a scene and a point, and then you transition with the phrase because of that, which is that
Yeah.
causes that linearity.
Right.
Um,
So that the meaning of the scene for the protagonist is driving you into the next scene.
being a pretty dynamic nonlinear thinker, how does this I'm just curious how this works for you. Is this do you enjoy this or is it painful?
It's fantastic. Like, I
Okay.
love a framework, I love a structure.
Okay.
So having a very clear framework with a very clear set of rules, easy peasy. So
Awesome.
it helps me so much take a story that is all over the place and into rabbit trails
Yeah, yeah.
and going off in little fractals
Nice.
and get it into a structure that like makes sense and a
Okay.
normal human being can follow.
Okay. So
Hopefully, that's the
um
idea anyway.
what do you love about this story right now, and what where do you feel it has weaknesses? Like how can I
Yeah.
help you process what to do with it next?
What I love about the story is the potential for a lot of other stories.
Okay.
There's so many fun little characters that I'm excited to explore their stories.
Okay.
Um, and I really like how close this is to my experience.
Okay.
Like there are so many elements of it that I directly like lived through and I can speak
Mm,
to really viscerally and provide a lot of flesh for
okay.
um, so that it also feels like my story to tell. Like I'm not speaking outside of my wheelhouse or,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
into troublesome territory. Like I
Yeah.
am of these marginalized groups.
Who do you connect more to? Shug or Judy?
Judy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
Um
so Shug is like this big, tall, like are you familiar with Shira?
yeah.
The Yeah, so
Yeah.
she's like Scorpia.
Nice.
She just has this like big, soft, like himbo energy.
I love it.
Um, and that's so comforting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And like whenever I meet folks like from the internet that I've gotten really close with and they have that like intense y-axis, it's always so like
I love it.
thrilling and I become a gooball. So
Yeah, yeah. That's great.
yeah.
Um what scenes are your favorite ones?
I like the river scene. Um,
That's
I
later on,
like,
right?
yeah, I like the, I like the opening scene,
Okay.
even though I've had to like rework it so many times. So it's like a totally different shape now, but there's some real silly things that I had in there.
Nice. The prologue or the the
The
the
prologue.
scene? Okay.
Yeah, the prologue.
Cool.
And then what else do I really like? There's a bunch of like slapsticky moments that are like tucked into various scenes that
Nice.
especially with like the weight of things and like the general seriousness of sapphic relationships, having just
Yeah.
like a little goof here and there
Yeah, yeah. It
is
keeps it fun.
sparkly to me. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
I
nice.
like it.
Um, do you want to talk tropes? Do you want to talk weak points? Like how do you want to enter into the story?
Yeah, I would love your perspective on just like how things are flowing. Like, does
Okay.
this make sense? Is this feeling good? Are there any holes? Are you bored or confused? Are things duplicated? Like,
I
does
definitely
this
have,
hold
yeah,
water as a story?
gotcha. It definitely holds water. It's a good story. Um, you've got a strong story. You've got two very strong characters. Um, you have some nice, really great moments of intimacy where they collide, and you're doing that thing that's so important in romance where their colliding is mistimed, where
Mm,
like one is on and one is off, and then they
yeah.
kind of switch. Um,
And I wanted to be careful with their miscommunications because I
yeah,
get so frustrated, especially in romance, when there are these miscommunications where people are lying or they're withholding information or they're doing things that like suck for relationship modeling.
yeah,
And it's painted off as this big romantic thing or just normal. And
yeah.
like that stuff is not normal. So,
Yeah, and you always back up. I always back up for romances like that, and I'm like, oh, they got together, but this is gonna be a toxic relationship later. Like
yeah,
the thing that they just did to manipulate this thing, like that's gonna be
right.
toxic in a year. Like,
And like
yeah,
with
yeah.
romance, you want the reader to be falling in love with these people. And
Hmm.
for me, like when I'm falling in love with characters in a story, I don't want to be lied to and I don't want to have stuff hidden from me.
Yeah,
So I try to be careful about that while still having those like miscommunications happen and those like missed connections.
gotcha. Well, I think your meet cute is great. So, Ma calls Judy. Judy has a miscommunicate. Well, you say she believes, she panics when checking her NYC mail. Um,
Yeah.
and
So she's like, from the pandemic, she's gone like pretty much agoraphobic. Like she doesn't leave her apartment. She
Gotcha,
hasn't checked her mail in forever. And she like calls to have like moral support for going
gotcha.
down to check her mail.
Okay. And then she ends up going to Texas to stay with Ma.
Yeah. So she gets this letter from an old colleague that's like describing this process of like going off your medications by going to
Mhm.
this like retreat out in the countryside. And Judy's like, well, I can do that myself.
Okay.
And like Ma gives her the space and the opportunity to do that, this like quiet little place in
And
Texas.
her medications are anxiety based.
Yes.
Okay.
And just, and most of it is just to manage the city. And then like the pandemic stuff around that.
Gotcha.
She's had to like increase, and she's to the point where like things aren't working for her anymore.
Okay.
So in her mind, initially, she's just going to like come off of things to where she can like build a tolerance back
Okay.
and have that tolerance back. Like she's just taking a break and then she's going to go right back into it.
What is part of what I couldn't tell from the outline that I think
Mm.
just because of the nature of the inside outline, how aware slash comfortable is Judy with her own sexuality? Are they all
Oh,
using her?
very.
Is
Yeah.
Judy using she her pronouns and is Shug using she her pronouns?
Yep,
Okay,
they're both she, her.
great.
So Judy is like super comfortable
Okay,
with her sexuality, but she's like a goof around actually connecting with people.
okay,
So just like being a human being is difficult for Judy.
yeah,
Being gay is fine.
okay.
Yeah.
I just couldn't tell from how the outline was phrased. I could tell that Shug was there. I couldn't tell if Judy was going through a process of discovery or if
Mm-mm.
she like knew. Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
great.
she's super well
Um,
established. Yeah.
okay. What is so in
But her like her big flaw in relationships is that she like tries to doctor everybody and
mm,
like most people don't want to be diagnosed and peered at under a microscope all the time. So it winds up pushing people away and frustrating them.
yeah. You also use this phrase with her blinders. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like I wanted to do something with like the horse angle.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I don't know if I'm gonna keep this or not, but it's something that Ma says to her initially for her to be able to like go and check her mail. Like just put your blinders on, Judy. Um,
Mm,
and then like she fixates on that, like, okay,
okay.
like that is my thing that I can use as a tool to get by. So like she's iterating it again and again and again. And then there's these like elements with the horses that are meaningful in the plot.
Yeah.
So it felt like, and like, of course, they don't have, but these are like country horses
Hmm.
that are
Yeah.
just don't have saddles, don't have anything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's not an element that they need.
So what's keeping her, because in a romance we always have the like what's keeping them apart.
Hmm.
That needs, it needs to be overcome or at a minimum like now like understood, maybe not
Mhm.
necessarily always overcome, but definitely understood by the other. It's her anxiety and it's her desire for isolation with blinders on. Is that a good way to say it?
So, hmm.
Maybe isolation's not the right word. It's her desire for um to focus in on her own healing and locking everything else out.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay.
And then just her being um, like she's doubting her self-worth a lot too,
Okay.
in relation to that. So she's not just like clear-headed, like I'm going to focus on myself. Like she's in the thick of it.
That's interesting. When she doctors people, is that a way to mask her self-doubt?
Yeah, she definitely like
Okay.
externalizes a lot of her care, um, like caring for other people when she really needs to care for herself first.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
All right, let's switch to anything else about Judy. So Judy's going to grow from this place of not necessarily overcoming her anxiety, but a place where she can open herself up to others.
Right, like not relying on this mask and crutch of
Yeah.
medicine.
Okay. Does the medicine have a negative impact on her mood slash like stasis?
Oh, so I meant medicine, like being a doctor medicine.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Um, but yeah, the medication that she's on does have like a huge
It's like a
impact on her.
dampening effect on her.
Right.
That's nice because it kind of plays into the blinders
Hmm.
idea that like all of that kind of fits into. Okay. Um, sorry, I'm just making a note for myself.
Sure.
Okay, so talk to me about Shug. She's widowed.
Hmm.
What is keeping her from being in a relationship?
So that was really like the love of her life.
Okay.
And she's just felt like satisfied with that. Like I don't need anything else. I already had it.
Hmm.
So she's very much kind of cloistered away, and has been pouring herself into her work.
Okay.
And like the shop is kind of dilapidated, and there are a lot of things that need doing that Shug avoids, like going to
Hmm.
the doctor. Um, and she just like occupies herself with like, no, everybody needs me to do all these things, and she has more work than she can do in a day, always. So
How did her spouse die?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't really flesh it out in the novel, but I don't think it was like a surprise thing. I think it was like a process, and they knew, and they had time to like deal with
Okay.
it.
You have Shug getting sick.
Hmm.
I was
She's
curious.
already sick. She has like a heart condition that
Okay.
she's like just in denial from. So like pretty much the entire novel, she's in heart failure.
Okay.
But you can live a long time in heart failure. But she's
Oh
like
yeah.
she's not doing anything to like learn what's going on with her body or take care of it or address it.
Did her wife care for her medical needs before she died?
Yeah, I feel like Jess was like some kind of nurse or something. Like that
Okay.
feels like that would have been a part
Yeah.
of that.
I mean, that might be a nice kind of layer to add to her that, that's something Jess thought about, and I don't think about that because thinking about that makes me think of Jess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, you
And
have
she's
her,
also in that state of like, why am I still alive?
yeah,
Like that's not at the forefront. She's
no,
not
but
like
it's
in a
just kind of
gloom or
living around.
anything, but she's like she's not really wanting to be there anymore.
If you wanted to bring that out more, one way you could play with that, this isn't necessary, Pa, but this is just something that comes to mind while we talk. One way you could play with that is if Jess died suddenly
Mhm.
and not from a medical condition, but like in a car accident or in
Mhm.
you know, something happened quickly. Um, and then that might bring a bit of depth to Shug in that um why would it matter? Like, what does it matter to care about my own health? Because anything can happen at any moment.
Mm.
because you have this big dramatic moment at the end, which I love, which is her point of healing where she kind of like says goodbye to Jess and allows
Hmm.
herself to like love again.
Yeah.
Um, you know, tying, I think the more you can give us a picture of what it is that she's holding on to with Jess and why she hasn't been able to like fully grieve, the more
Yeah.
impactful that moment will be.
And the car accident thing is actually really good because that would contribute to her anxiety around needing to be at the shop all the time and
Absolutely.
maintaining people's cars.
Oh yeah, that's really great. Yeah, because she's in essence, it's almost a heroic move for her, like to sacrifice to keep everybody's cars in its town kind of like safe and together. It adds a nice kind of depth to her. Um, which is good because it I think we set up these dominoes early on in the story,
Mhm.
and the more of them we set up, when they all start to fall down, it's more awe-inspiring. So I think the more you can set up Shug's kind of background with Jess, in that, like, if you go with the car accident, Jess died in a car accident, so Shug is now obsessively working and um not taking care of her own health, because that was something Jess did, but why does it matter? Because Jess was healthy, and then look at what happened to her.
Right.
So I'm going to do what I can do with kind of my head down, getting through life until it's over. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and it
I
keeps
think,
that, like, I don't want to actually live thing that
yeah.
you're going for in the novel.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
initially I had Jess as the one that was like not great about caring for herself. And so
Mm,
Shug, the onus was on Shug to care for both of them.
okay.
Um, but I like that angle better. I think that makes more sense.
Well, I like it too because it gives um Judy something to, like, doctors, in essence, there's a part of being a doctor that's about diagnosis,
Hmm.
about trying to discover what's happening. And so the kind of the trope of the doctor is I won't leave it alone
Mm.
type thing. Um,
Yeah, dog with a bone.
yeah. And so this would give Judy something to explore in Shug, that she could use to push against her attraction for Shug.
How do you mean?
Like, allowing you to be like, well, I'm not actually attracted to her. I have my blinders on. I'm justifying my like time with her
Mm.
by um trying to figure out what's going on with her. Does that make
Suge
sense?
also like wears her wedding ring, so for a long time Judy thinks that she's still
Thanks. Yeah,
married.
thanks. She's.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I caught that there was
Initially,
like a confusion about the relationship, but I didn't catch that.
yeah, initially she thinks that Suge and Tom are married, because
Yeah.
they run the shop together and they're with each
Pretty
other all
funny.
the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like when she sees Tom doing Tom's thing, she's like, "Oh, is this like an
Interesting.
open relationship or something?" And Tom's like, "I'm not with Suge. What are you talking about? Ew."
Gotcha.
Um, so then she realizes that they're not together, but the way that conversation happens, it seems like, oh, they're divorced, but Suge is still wearing the ring. Like
Mm,
Judy's still under the impression that like Suge
they're
is hanging on to something that's still there.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you may not need the whole like widow angle if you've got the confusion around Suge's sexual attractions with Judy. I don't know that you need to complicate it more. It makes it darker if you bring in the
Mm,
like. It depends like what you want the feel of the book to be. Like if you want it lighter, because there's the kind of like Doc Hollywood feel to some of it. Do you know what I'm talking about? The like big
no.
town doctor who shows up to the small town and is like slowly falls in love with all of the people in the small town and sticks around. You
Yeah. I
have
was
some,
thinking like Joel Fleischman in Northern Exposure.
yeah, same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
same story. And in the original Doc Hollywood movie, there is actually like his car's busted, so he can't leave town. And the
Hmm.
grand gesture at the end, because the romance is kind of the romance between him and the town, not just like
Oh,
him and a person. The romance at the grand gesture at the end is that they actually fix his car. and they're like, "Hey, here's your card." So when I was reading through your thing, I was like, "Oh, she like they have that."
That's so nice.
Yeah, Paul has that moment where like Suge is like, "Oh, by the way, I fixed your car." Um, so I thought you were like alluding to that, because it's the kind
Never
of like
even seen
big
it. That's so
grand
lovely.
gesture. I don't know that I would. I'm describing it in a very positive light. It's an early 90s movie. I don't know that you need to see it. Um, keep your positive glow about it. Don't go watch it. Uh, let's just pretend that it is as sweet as I'm describing. I have a feeling I haven't seen it for probably 15 years. I have a feeling there's probably things in there that aren't as glowing and happy as I'm saying they are.
It's the
Okay,
90s.
yeah, against the 90s. So talk to me about where are you placing like one of the next what your meet cute is great. Right? Like your meet cute's fantastic. I like the like in and out of attraction that they have. Where is your like dark moment where it's like it seems like this relationship will never come together? What scene are you placing that in?
Yeah, there's a couple kind of wobbly moments, but I think the darkest one is at the end, near the end,
Okay.
where they like Shug puts herself out there, and like openly in front of the town is like making this romantic overture to Judy,
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
um, and then finds out that um, Judy's not, or
Does that is
understands.
that where the town tells Suge that Judy's not like you have a moment where they're like the town talks badly about
Right, that's a different scene.
that's a different scene. Okay.
That's a
That's
little earlier
earlier.
on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um,
I'm
yeah, so
looking for
this
the one you're
is,
talking about.
yeah, keep going.
Okay.
It's after she buries the ring.
After she bears the
Um,
ring. Okay, I went
no,
too
it's
far.
in that, yeah, middle section there.
Um,
Keep going up. Uh, there.
Risking
So,
public
uh,
scorn.
yes.
Okay.
So then, Judy is, she tried just like taking her old medication again, but
Okay.
like you have to like wean things on and off, and just
Yeah,
like going back and taking, like she knows better.
yeah, yeah.
So actually the dark moment is more the scene 32.
Scene
um
32. Okay.
mhm,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay. Because we have this foible by Judy where
right,
she kind of expresses herself openly
right,
because
yeah,
she's drugged.
right,
And then
yeah, she,
Yeah, she like messes up her. Sorry, what were you gonna say? I totally cut you off.
yeah, she makes a big play for Shug, but
Okay.
she's, and Shug doesn't know that Judy's taken medication, so she
Hmm.
just thinks like she's a pediatrician that's like drunk in the middle of the day, and like it just looks real bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um yeah, so it's a bunch of levels of yuck there.
yeah, yeah.
And then Shug like kind of nursing her wound and taking down all the things, and like Judy didn't even see it,
Hmm.
but Shug thinks that Judy saw it and then responded like that. um and Shug's like, nope.
Gotcha.
Didn't want that.
This is
um
dual POV. You're dropping back and forth between their POVs.
exactly,
I think, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, you'd have to have so much
There's
like
a
hidden from each other.
there's a meme that's like, put myself out there, and then it's like, put myself back in, what the heck was I thinking?
It's
And like
really
that's
funny.
that's Shug's vibe in these
Okay.
two scenes.
So this is Shug's kind of like close down. Like I'm pulling myself back
That scene
because
32 is
yeah.
not the 31,
But this is
not
the
the
lead up
31.
to it. This is like Judy's mess up.
That's,
Shug's
yeah.
pullback. Where is Judy's pullback?
Where Judy pulls back.
Yeah. Is
I
there
guess
one? Is
like
there one where
she's
she's
very like reserved the whole time leading up
yeah.
to the horse ride.
Okay.
Um so she's, yeah. And like, and the way that she interacts with Shug and the way that she talks about Shug is like pretty cold and harsh
Okay.
for the first half of the novel.
So we've got this pullback from Shug.
Right.
I'll make that. I'm
And Judy's kind of unaware of that. Like she knows that there's like a rejection happening, but
yeah,
she's going through her own stuff.
yeah. But then Tom comes and tells her off. So she knows. She
Right.
finds out about it pretty quick. Um, so where is the do you have grand gestures for both of them to rebuild the relationship? Where would you
So
classify
Shug's grand
those?
gesture is that decorating the clinic. So
Okay.
that
With the
gets
Darling family
thwarted.
tools?
And then no,
No, okay.
farther up, yeah, the risking public scorn scene 30.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that's Shug's grand overture.
Okay.
Um, and then like agreeing to go to the hospital. It's kind of like a big thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But Judy like grabbing Shug and taking her to the hospital, that's the big romantic gesture moment.
Okay.
It's
Um,
further down.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Scene
Yeah,
37.
there it is. Okay. So this is her grand overture.
Hmm.
So that's a nice pattern because you've got the like grand overture, rejection, second grand overture. Um, how does Shug connect what Judy's doing to her dead wife?
So Shug, this is when she's in the hospital. And this was like relating to Jess being in medicine.
Okay.
Um, and so she's like kind of talking to her in the way that she always has. Like she basically continues after Jess dies as if they're still in a relationship. Like she still is like doing all the stuff that she had done when Jess was alive,
Gotcha.
including like their conversations in the morning and they're like asking Jess for advice
Well,
and
that's nice. So
whatever. And
you have
that's why she kind of
scenes.
isolates herself.
Gotcha. You have scenes where
Yeah,
she's like talking to
Jess.
Jess, but Jess isn't there. That's
Yeah.
really nice.
And
Um,
that's like the scene at the gravesite is so
it's saying
impactful because
goodbye.
she's like saying goodbye and then
Yeah.
here she's like talking to her again but it's internal,
Okay.
and she's like thanking her because she feels like Judy was brought by
Gotcha.
Jess. Yeah.
Gotcha. I really like that. That's a really beautiful kind of reflective moment. Um,
Yeah. And having the like extended goodbye gave them opportunities to like joke with each other and for
mm,
Jess to be like, I want you to marry a super hot doctor. Like
it's really funny.
don't like sit around and be a crusty old widow. That's gross.
That's
Like I want you
hysterical.
to like be on the apps the second I'm gone. Like don't wait
That's
for
really
me to get
funny.
cold. Yeah, Jess is a
Yeah,
trip.
that's
Yeah.
fun. Um, yeah, I really like that. And then they're back. They have the unprofessional but like in love moment at the hospital.
So for Judy to like be
Yeah,
curling up in a patient's bed,
yeah, yeah. Very
it's
vulnerable.
just like never would she ever, but she's
When
there.
Judy comes to Texas, is it assumed that she's always going to stay there, or is she just there to heal and then go home?
Yeah, she's just there to like wean off her meds for a little while, so that she can take a lower dose and have it be effective when she goes back to the city.
Okay. Is part of the conversation between her and Shug at any point about like this is pointless because you're leaving?
Yeah, there's an element of that, like,
It's another
you
plot
know,
point you might want to consider because you build to this like the epilogue scene is this like a year later they're still together. To
hmm
pay that off, you know, Judy has to be at a minimum telling herself, I'm I can't feel this way because I'm leaving.
Yeah,
It's
and
got to be
Judy
one of
has a
those
lot of
excuses
stuff
she
around
uses.
like not belonging there.
Yeah.
This is like estranged family that she's reconnecting with.
Yeah.
So she doesn't really feel like it's her place to be able to stay. And so
Nice.
like the Darling family tools being passed down to her
Yeah.
and all of these like moments of the town accepting her and
Yeah.
her grandmother really like claiming her. And this being a safe place because historically, like Texas has not been a safe place for
Yeah.
her and for queer people in general.
Yeah.
So like she definitely like melts and softens into the town and like
Nice.
becomes more at home there. Whereas like in the beginning, that's not even on the cards.
Yeah. I like how you're fighting the trope too. There's typically a trope, especially around New York City, that like New Yorkers get somewhere more rural and they're like, ew, gross. So it's nice that,
Yeah,
you
she's
know,
so homesick
yeah.
for it. And like also so relieved to like not have people coughing anywhere near
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
and like but she freaks out about some stuff. Like there's a scene at night where she winds up calling Shug because
Okay.
she's like hearing sounds outside from being in
Yeah.
the city
Yeah.
so
And she's
long. Like,
scared. Yeah. That's a good
yeah,
scene. Yeah. I read that one. That one's great.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's a fun scene. Um, you know, I don't really have any, like, we've talked through all of my concerns. It feels like a really solid story. I don't know that
Ooh,
I have any like I'm not feeling any like this is missing, or you've got your beats. You're doing fun things with the world that I think is very in line with the queer fiction I've read. Like, I'm not a giant queer fiction reader. I do read some, and there is that current trend to paint the world as we want it to be, not as it is. And you are
yeah.
definitely doing that in this.
That's very much my vibe. Like
Yeah,
dream the world into being. Yeah.
yeah. And there's not a lot of like, you don't have any of the like, I think what would have been like a 90s, early aughts queer story in which they had to battle for their right to be queer. They're just accepted for who they are, which is, I think a trend. I mean, the one that keeps coming to mind is TJ Klune, who
Mhm.
writes beautiful
I love
queer
him so
books.
much.
Oh, this
Yeah.
man, such an amazing writer. But yeah, having that trend of like, that's not really the question of the book. The
Right.
question, and I would say, like, I would probably put your question overall of like, two people healing together
Hmm.
is what I would say, where they're both healing, and their healing is drawing them to one another, which I think
Yeah.
is a beautiful story, regardless of where they are, or like
And
what their setting is.
they have these like blinders on for their own needs
Yeah,
and they're so focused on the person in front of them, but
yeah,
like being that for each other allows them to like be able to perceive their own needs and be able to meet them themselves
yeah,
rather than just like becoming this codependent thing.
yeah. I'm curious. You said you find yourself a lot in this story. Did you set out to write fictionalized memoir, or did that just happen?
Oh, it's not a memoir at all.
Okay. Well, I
It's
meant
not a
like,
memoir at all, but like,
yeah.
so I moved from Philly to Splendora, Texas.
Okay.
So like that journey is mine. And then
Gotcha.
there's like a scene of Mary, this kind of gnarly person in town, flirting
Is
with Judy on the
she's the
highway.
one with the mole? You keep describing
Yeah.
her as the woman with the mole.
Mole woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awful. Um, but like I had that experience like so many times driving
Yeah.
around. When I first moved to Texas, I didn't have AC. So I would drive with my windows down and people in pick like going 80 miles an hour, people in pickup trucks would be like making rude gestures and like shouting their phone number at me
Gosh.
and all this stuff. And it would be like, what is the goal here?
People
Like,
are the
what is,
worst.
why is this
Yeah.
happening?
Are you taking it down
Um,
while you drive?
Yikes.
Yeah.
And then like the little bar in the town, like there was a little bar like that in Splendora. Splendora
Mm,
has like on the census it has like 2,000 people, but like really
nice.
there's like 10. And like
Uh-huh.
everybody knows everybody. The people at the post office like knew my name when I moved in and knew everything about me and like
Yeah.
what time I came and left. And like whenever I would be homesick, like everyone in the town would know about it and would be like checking in on me.
That's
And
really
be
fun.
like,
Yeah.
thanks. Should I be concerned?
Yeah.
Uh, so
It
like
is the kind of beauty of
those are
that
more of
rural,
the
yeah, that rural small town community.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, is it can is has some beautiful things to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I had only planned to stay for 6 months, but then I had family stuff come up that I stayed
gotcha.
for, and now it's been like 12 years, 13 years.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like that's more of like I'm telling my own story. These are two
Yeah.
white people, like the familial aspects and like being estranged and having
Hmm.
stuff go on, being sapphic, like the neurodivergent stuff. Like my experience of anxiety is autism,
Hmm.
and like being overstimulated, but that gets misdiagnosed as anxiety a lot.
Yeah.
And like I don't specifically diagnose Judy with anything. Like she just has these medications that she's been given and these coping mechanisms, and stuff that she goes through.
Yeah,
So
well, and you're putting it post-pandemic, so I don't think you really need to. Like, you can just kind of say pandemic, and we're all like, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we get it. We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So that's more of what I'm speaking to my experience with. Like,
Nice.
I don't have
Yeah.
a black main character. I don't have a, you know, somebody going through something that I haven't directly experienced.
Yeah, I think that can make I think using our own experience as fodder to fill a narrative can lead to some very deep and intimate moments. So
Mm.
I'm excited. I'm excited
Because
about the book. It sounds
I think
great.
the last time I was here, I talked about Tangled Lights.
Yep.
The last time I talked to you, I was
Yep.
talking about Tangled Lights and like Punjabi
Yep.
Jewish main character,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
like
Struggling with
Colombian
mom. Yep.
American,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sex work history, and
Yeah.
then this Chinese American man, who's
Yeah.
gay, and
Yeah.
there
It
was
was
just
definitely some tangled lights going on. There was a
you
lot of
know
light and it was
so
very
many
tangled.
elements that I
Yeah.
loved, and like so much research that I did, and
Yep.
sensitivity reader and whatever, but ultimately like not my story to tell, like not my business.
Yeah.
So for this one, I just wanted to like fully stay in my lane, have as simple a story as possible, and like see if it was possible for me to write a story that other human beings can understand and digest and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What you said at the beginning that there were characters you wanted to spin off into other stories. What characters
Hmm.
are you looking at? It's like these are the ones that
Yeah. So I had well, I have that novel Black Seed Sisters, where there's
Mhm.
like the octogenarian main character,
Yeah.
and she has like a romance, a sapphic romance. And so from this, I would love to like write a romance for Ma. I think
Nice.
that would be fantastic.
I
And
like that a
like maybe
lot.
even have her be like polyamorous and have like multiple things going on. I don't know.
That
I'm
would be
excited
fun.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, there are two other really clear couples, Annette, who owns the market, Annie's, and Marilyn, Judy's assistant. They have a
Nice.
relationship that like will fracture. And then I think I'm going to have Tom involved in that somehow.
Okay.
Um, and like maybe have like a more wholesome romance ultimately for Tom, like at
Yeah,
the end
yeah.
of the series, but I don't know yet. I want him to be a bit of a chaos monster.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom is trans, by the way, so
Okay.
I like him being a little chaos monster.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then
That feels like a potential like third book. You always got to take your chaos monster and like give them life in the third season. Yeah.
and then the other couple, Marilyn and Annette, and then
You've got Mom,
uh,
Marilyn, and that your chaos monster Tom.
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
There's one other couple that's like real clear in the
Nice.
novel that's like sort of in the background, but
That's great.
circling.
Yeah, I mean it. Ah, it sounds fantastic. I
Yay!
think it's great. I love where you're going with this series. That's such a great, you know, grounding a series in a town and then like exploring the lives of all the people in the town is such a I mean, ever
Yeah,
since
that's like
Garrison,
my
yeah, Garrison
favorite thing.
Keeler and Lake Wobegon has been doing it since like forever. So yeah,
Like
it's a
all
good.
Talia Hibbert's
Yep.
series that have
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the connecting people from the town.
Yep.
and like people related to each other that are in totally different areas, and then you
Yeah.
get to explore that area.
Did
I
Nora
love it.
Roberts do it too? I'm trying to
I have no
remember.
idea.
My mom used to read a lot of Nora Roberts.
Mm.
I think that's who it is.
Is
There's a
Nora Roberts
romance
like a
author.
mystery person?
She is.
Okay.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person. There's
I
a
have no idea.
romance author
She
that
might
lives
be a
in
romance
Maryland.
person.
I don't, Paul, who knows? There's
I
a
only
romance author
started
that lives in
reading
Maryland that does
romance
that.
uh, in 2020. I started reading romance, and like
That's fun.
before I wrote my first romance, I read like 350 romance novels.
Yeah,
Um, so I like
I
I
love it.
brushed up real fast, but like almost entirely modern romance.
Interesting.
Like, and then oh, what's it called? Not Bustle. There's this fantastic nonfiction book that talks about like the history of romance.
Oh, interesting.
Um, it's like heaving bosoms or
Okay.
you know ungustling the bustle something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it's so funny, and it talks about the way that romance has evolved, and the initial like patriarchal rape culture, um,
Yeah,
the tropes that were so embedded with like male gaze and domination and patriarchy, um, and we're just like horrible for
yeah,
for the women that were like the primary readers,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and how it's evolved over time to involve more consent and hygiene and like
yeah, yeah,
healthy relationship modeling.
yeah.
Um, so
I
I
think
was
my
like,
eyes opened to
cool, I was
romance.
spared.
Yeah, yeah. My
Why
eyes
dig
opened to
through the
romance.
bones?
I was talking. I was doing some anti-human trafficking work, and I
Mm,
remember I was in a conference session about like how we should be doing like sex education for college students.
mm,
And there was somebody who did she was doing a like examination of what romance novels and like romance storytelling at the time was teaching college students, like shows like Gossip Girl and these shows that like they had grown up on.
yeah.
And the phrase that she was using was enthusiastic consent
Hmm.
in all of your storytelling.
Yep.
Shoot for enthusiastic consent. And I was like, this
Clear,
is, yeah,
enthusiastic consent.
clear,
And you can say
enthusiastic
no at
consent.
any time,
Yep, yeah,
and like people are respecting each other's agency.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's, I think you and I have talked about this before, the tropes from like Jane Austen of the
yeah,
like grouchy, disaffected guy.
yep.
And then like you ultimately see him as like the wonderful person that he is inside.
On the interior, yeah,
So there are all these like red flags in the
yep,
beginning about this person's behavior, and then you find out they're so wonderful. But in real life, the people that have those behaviors are dangerous.
yeah,
Like we need to be
yep,
staying away from them.
yeah,
And Jane Austen had enough nuance built in that it was like obvious what she was doing, and it was like fleshed out, and there was more to all of these elements. But how it's distilled over time
yeah.
is that people are taking just like the the image of the trope, and then the
Hmm.
copied image of that, and then
And
and
playing
so
into it.
it gets
Yeah, well,
diluted and diluted and
it
diluted
gets
until you get
combined with like
to
the that
Twilight.
yeah, and that
Where
weird like
like
bad boy
horrifying
fantasy of
consent.
like this person does terrible things in the world, but like he's a bad boy, so it's attractive. Yeah. I
No.
was the other side of
This
that
person
trope.
wants to vomit when they see me, and
Yeah,
like they're so disgusted by it. There's
oh, it's the worst. Yeah, if
like
they're standing
they're
outside my
oh,
window
aren't
at
they
night
so
watching me
noble?
sleep. Yeah,
Hello?
yeah,
Aren't they so noble that they
silly
aren't
stuff.
eating me? Like,
Yeah,
excuse me?
yeah, yeah. Oh man,
Mm-mm.
the one that I've had to like playing into that trope every time we watch, because we'll watch movies as family. As a family now, and I have three teenage boys and one um elementary school boy who doesn't watch these movies with us, but we'll watch like thrillers from the 90s or like, rom-coms that my wife and I grew up on. And there is routinely a moment where like the couple is struggling to connect and they're having a hard time, and the male figure will just grab the woman and kiss her, and then she melts.
Yep.
And I have to, every time we see it, I have to pause the movie and I have to look at all of my boys and say,
They could never,
never,
ever do
never,
this.
never,
For the
never.
love of
Yeah,
God.
never, never
Don't.
grab someone while they're talking to you about how they're frustrated with you and kiss them. That is unhealthy and not romantic.
Yes.
Yeah, there will be no
And it's
music swell
still
behind you. Yeah,
in
it will
like
not
in
happen.
Asian media, in
Ugh,
all these K dramas that are so popular right now, and
yeah,
like in all Asian media, there's this like the women cannot express any desire. So they're
yeah,
like, they can only refute, they can only say, like, no, don't, no, don't, no,
that's
don't. And they're
interesting.
like, they're miserable and their eyes are open, and the men
Ah,
just like force themselves on them.
oh,
And there's the romantic music. And like, what
yeah.
is
I don't.
happening?
That's a genre
Like,
I haven't engaged with. That's
this,
yeah.
the consent is
Whew.
just, woo.
Yeah. Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
there's another meme going around. It's like, damn girl, are you a kids movie from my generation? Because you're fun and cute, but also horrifying in many ways I didn't originally realize.
Yeah, that's how I feel about most things I encounter
Mhm.
from our generation. I'm like, oh, this
Oh,
is
I
seriously
remembered this
problematic.
so
Yeah,
differently.
yeah, this is tough. It's really funny. Well, this has been lovely. Ah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
really appreciate having your eyes on it.
Oh
And
yeah. No, it's a
yeah,
beautiful. I feel bad because I didn't really add anything to your story. It's beautiful.
I mean, like
There's not a lot to
having
touch with.
someone else like just look at the facts and figures and be
Yeah.
like yes, the overall structure makes sense,
Yeah.
and
Structure
the
makes
like
sense.
the flow from scene to scene makes
Hmm.
sense, because that's where a lot of people get confused with my work, like why is this happening now, and like why are we in this
No.
area. And
Yeah. Transitions make perfect sense. I would say there's like when I'm looking at this story as a whole, there's a couple things I'm looking for. I'm looking for like, are the characters' journeys unique to the character? Right. Like, because a
mm,
lot of times we'll write like the two characters on the same journey and it's just not very exciting.
mm,
Judy and Shug have very unique journeys, right? Like they've got very clear. Are there hurdles they have to overcome? Yep, there's hurdles they have to overcome. Are they making active choices? Judy and Shug are both making very active choices, negative and positive, right? Like in their like pursuit of healing and relationship. And then like, can I see in the plot line the character growth? And yeah, they both clearly, very beautifully kind of become better versions of themselves. So yeah, it's a really great story. I'm excited
cool.
to for you to put it in the world. It's good.
Yeah. And for
Don't put
that
this one in a drawer.
differentiation piece, I think I like recommended this before, but Damon Swade's structure, that activate
Yeah,
and verbalize.
yeah,
So
yeah.
with that, Shug is serve and Judy is protect. Um,
That's nice.
and so Judy is like doing a lot of vaccines for the
Yeah,
children, like she's a pediatrician.
yeah, yeah.
And then Shug has that like constant air of service and focus on being a
Yeah, and
help.
I totally see it. You have consistent scenes of her serving people in the community and Judy noticing, and it's nice. It's really good. All right, well, I'm gonna hit stop and we can talk a little. Oh, where can people find you online if they want to come find your
Oh
work?
yeah, so I'm an editor now, and I
I didn't
focus
know that.
on they them pronouns and
Nice.
neurodivergence, and my website for that is payitforwardeditorial.com.
Oh, Pa, I wish I had known we would have talked about that at the front. Pay it forward. Pay it forward what?
Editorial.com.
Editorial.com. I'm gonna go look.
Yeah, and then I haven't made these live yet, but I got the domain names editing.gay and paterio.gay.
Oh, nice. Way to go. Good marketing. That's fantastic. Um, okay, I'm gonna hit stop and we can talk a little bit more.
Okay, cool.